What is up, Steeler Nation? We are back for another great week on the one and only The Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. I'm Jay York Football. This is Mic'd Up Sports One. He has his Angry Run shirts on. You have your Yins hat on. And we want to give a big shout out to Steel City Wheelhouse, where the bar is set. Tires for all cars, wheels, everything custom that you need. We set it during the season. It's where our guy number 30 for your Pittsburgh Steelers, Jalen Warren, goes. Visit steelcitywheelhouse.com. We're going to talk draft. It's day one. It's like school. A lot of new faces in this Steelers organization. It's all good. Let's get to it, Shane.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Steelers Crazy.
Harris Smith shields. Flacco Polamalu takes it home. Super Bowl 43. Pittsburgh might be bound for that thanks to number 43.
The sickest Pittsburgh Steelers podcast.
Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
What's up, brother?
What's up, brother?
Do you have any idea what that means? Is that something that the kids are doing these days? Do we just feel really old? Is it a TikTok, Instagram thing?
I thought we're in our 30s, so I thought in my era it was a Drake and Josh thing, but theirs is Hug Me Brother. That from, Drake and Josh on Nickel. And that was my first thought. And then I'm like, I don't know.
That was a great show.
Yeah. It was.
Drake Bell, Josh Peck.
Yeah.
Josh got the glow up now. He was a pudgy kid, and now he's on How I Met Your Father on Netflix, looking like Leonardo DiCaprio out there. But I kind of like the "What's up, brother." We can adopt that for sure. I thought about texting our boy Jalen or hitting up Christian Kuntz or something, but I feel like it's an inside joke. You can't ask about an inside joke. Those have to stay in the locker room. So we'll find out at some point.
Definitely, and it's day one. You see all the players entering into the building on South Water Street, and just the excitement's here. The draft's coming. We're not done yet, as they say, Mike.
Yeah, listen, the first thing I want to talk about, though, is I've seen a lot of, I don't want to use the word reports, but a lot of speculation is probably the better word from multiple outlets that there's a true camp battle that's about to take place between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. We're seeing a lot of stories being published that analyst X thinks Justin Fields is the favorite. And then a lot of others are saying, hey, this is Russell Wilson's job. That's why he was brought in. It would be a shocker if Fields takes this from him. What do you think, man? Where do you stand? Is this actually 50-50 like some of the chatter is suggesting?
I mean, I would put everything on the table, but realistically, I just think that people doubting Russell Wilson at this point, he's a proven champion. You could say Hall of Famers when it's all said and done. I think that just his pedigree coming into the building kind of just speaks for itself. And we always say that sometimes the grass is greener on the other side. I don't put much stock into what went on in Denver. Sean Payton didn't like him from the start for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe he's an atheist. I'm not really sure. But just really, I think that this is Russ's team. I think that he commands respect, and I think that he would build up, Justin Fields. I'm sure they're going to have a great relationship. I don't think this is going to be a Kenny Pickett, any animosity towards everyone. And I think that, even getting rid of Deontay Johnson too, I'll say this, he's a great player, but he was more detrimental than his talent, was on the field. So wish him the best. But man, excited for this team. Russell Wilson's QB1 in my eyes. I don't see it. I would say it for at least the first 6 games, and then you can evaluate and see where you're at there. Injuries happen. You never know. We've seen it all. I mean, Duck Hodges was a quarterback.
I would be shocked. And I think Justin Fields is coming into this situation with the mindset that he's the number 2 quarterback. As crazy as that may sound, obviously every player in the NFL is supremely confident in their skill set, as they should be, maybe outside of Chase Claypool, who said he was the best receiver in the NFL a couple of years back. But it's a situation, we've seen a lot of these over the years in all sports, where if you start Justin Fields initially, you can't really go to Russell Wilson, right? Because I feel like you are going to have a disgruntled guy. But if you start Russell Wilson and he struggles, you can easily transition to Justin Fields, and that just makes sense. It's logic, it's rational. So I don't know where the hell these reports are coming out that people think Justin Fields is going to start for the Steelers. Now, once more, if he balls out in camp and Russell looks old and tired and, maybe not motivated, which would be surprising given the context of the last few years, maybe, but this is Russell Wilson's gerb right now. That's for sure, brother.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. I think it just goes back to pedigree and, bringing a veteran like that in here. I mean, let's be honest. Like, I can you imagine when Kenny Pickett was there going into that locker room and saying, "Hey, Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett, yeah, you're going to be Kenny Pickett's the starter." Like, come on, bro. I mean,
that's
just
a good point. That's a really good point because the Steelers clearly traded away Kenny Pickett because he was unwilling to be the backup quarterback for Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
You kind of have to know then if you're trading for a guy in Justin Fields who's probably going to be the backup quarterback to Russell Wilson, that he's cool with that. I guess in a lot of ways he has to because he was outed in Chicago.
He didn't get much value on the market. Like he was valued. I think I read by all the outlets, he was valued it as a backup quarterback. Like that's the money he was, getting, and it just kind of, hey, I honestly don't think we had our guy Rick on here, and he said that Mike Tomlin's kind of in a pickle. I look at it as like I agree with him at some point, but at the same time, what would you rather have two capable starting quarterbacks and one being your backup? I think that's a pretty good problem to have.
It's not a pickle.
That's just, yeah, I don't see it
pickle
as a pickle.
Was Kenny Pickett. That was a pickle.
Yeah.
A Kenny pickle.
It's just, and I commend them for actually just saying, "Hey, we messed up on this pick. Best of luck, move on." And that's when, in my head, like you said, we're not going to put too much stock in what Kevin Colbert in that era did. It's a new era, and the con artist is here.
Shout out Picklesburg, by the way. One of my favorite events in the Berg. Clemente Bridge is back open. Man, I would love to eat some pickles on a hot summer day. Yeah, while watching the Pittsburgh Pirates blast the Milwaukee Brewers or something. But that sounds good. And you know what else sounds good? The NFL draft. It is a week and a half away. Isn't it always funny that all this research, all these mock drafts go into it, and then it just comes and goes, right? It's not like the NFL season where you're projecting left and right and you have 4 months for everything to play out. This thing is 3 days, and before you know it, we're grading draft classes, and guys are walking into Pittsburgh, getting there, a tour of Mount Washington and the incline and eating Permanis, whatever it might be. But it's here, brother, and I'm ready for it. I'm kind of sick of reading mock drafts at this point, but not sick of doing them.
Yeah, there you have it. That was a nice segue. I mean, I just think that the draft has everything that the Steelers need. All the analysts and draft experts that we have on, they broke it down all the same. Offensive lineman, secondary, wide receiver in the mid rounds, maybe even snag a quarterback just because, a decent guy might be available. I think that, I'm just really optimistic, more than I've been in years past, just about the whole motion of the Pittsburgh Steelers right now.
It does have everything the Steelers need in terms of quality, but they can't fill every position of need in the draft. So I want to get into a little bit the story I just wrote over here for BTSC. Let's jump into this right here. Hold on one second. I did a little Steelers mock draft and also wanted to kind of break down just some options that I think are optimal. This is in an ideal world, the utopia for Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward here, JY. And most mocks are built around projections, what they think they're going to do. I'll have one of those, of course, before the draft. This is what I want to see them do, right? What they should try and accomplish to check every box off of the list, because there are a lot of boxes to check, that's for sure. So the first thing, JY, that I threw out here that we've been talking about for a long time is they should trade for a receiver. I feel like they have pigeonholed themselves a little bit into having to take one early in the draft when you have a lot of needs on the offensive line. I threw out some names here. Jacoby Myers for the Raiders. The
Brandon
Raiders
Ayuk unfollowed the 49ers on
Yeah, but
Instagram.
he did show up to voluntary workouts today, and there's just been a lot of misreporting there. Jacoby Myers, nobody has talked about him being on the trade block for what it's worth.
Yeah,
I don't
didn't
have
even
any
think that
insight.
wasn't a name that I was
No.
thinking personally.
It's one that nobody has really talked about, but there are always surprises every offseason, of course. The Raiders stink. They should know that. They're not going anywhere these next couple years.
Yeah,
If you
that's a decent last season, 8 touchdowns.
had a great year last season, 71 catches, 807 yards. He's a chain mover. He's a veteran,
and
smart
he played
player.
for the Raiders, so.
Can block well. And so who knows, right? If it takes overpaying, maybe you go out and secure that position before you feel like you have to take one in the draft. Cortland Sutton is a name that I wrote this before yesterday, or I wrote this yesterday before that he didn't show up for voluntary minicamp today. So this is an easy correlation. He's in the last year of his deal. He wants a new contract. He played with Russell Wilson in Denver, and he's a very good wide receiver and would be a perfect number 2. Another big guy. Denver already traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns, JY, for a 5th and a 6th round pick. I think if you offer, a third, if you get crazy and offer a second, he could be in black and gold tomorrow. And then, yeah, you said it. There is Brandon Ayuk, who has been the most talked about name on X for a long time. Do you think that could still happen? Are you buying into Brandon Ayuk?
I would say I'm like
70-30
leaning towards 70 being no. So
fair. It's fair.
I just think I think personally, if they were going to pull the trigger on a wide receiver, they would already did it. But I know that they'll get someone. I just don't know if they'll, maybe second round in the draft and surprise people. I hope not.
I think about some trades right during the draft. A.J. Brown traded during the draft. This is a big week leading up to the draft where a lot of things are going to happen. So I'm not ruling anything out. I had a lot of responses to this. Like, hey, okay, whatever, Mike. Why don't they just draft a receiver in the second round? Well, I think it's a lot more, maybe reasonable isn't the right word, a lot more probable, and it makes more sense to trade for a receiver than to trade for a tackle or to trade for a center. At this point in the game, I don't think you're going to see tackles and centers of starting caliber being traded. But I could see that happening with a receiver, which is why I went this route in an ideal world. And that sets me up for the mock draft and what I'd love to see them do. And I used a simulator for this, JY, so these trades are not out of left field completely. But in round 1, I'd like to see them trade down to acquire a little bit more equity. Here I had them trading picks 20 and 98 to Dallas to move down just 4 spots and gain another second round pick. That seems like a freaking home run, right?
I mean, I wouldn't hate that. Just put it that way. I might not be fully in on it, but I don't hate it.
Yeah, and Dallas could move up for a receiver. Maybe Brian Thomas Jr., considering the Steelers in this scenario would have added one. And in this case, you brought up Rick Saratella, who was our guest last week, founder of NFL Draft Bible. He told us if you have to wait until round 2 to take an offensive tackle, you're not getting an offensive tackle of starting caliber. Tyler Guyton is probably the last in tier 1. Behind J.C. Latham, behind, of course, Amarius Mims, behind Fuaga, behind Fatanu. One of those guys probably will fall later in the first round. So this is a right tackle who's huge, 6'7", length, powerful, experience at Oklahoma. He is absolutely somebody that I would feel comfortable starting from day 1, and it allows them to gain equity and still find a starting offensive tackle. So watch what this equity does for them, Jordan, because now they move back. They have a little more cheese, right? There's just a little more cheese here, and they could use their second round pick now at 51 to move up, knowing that they have 56. And look who that is, your boy.
Yeah. And I don't care. I mean, I'm a Pitt guy, West Virginia. At this point, when you're in black and gold, I don't care where you played.
So at this point,
I like
you
him.
have to trade up to secure one of the top tier centers as well. You can't sit back and wait.
Former
Until
All-State
52.
wrestler. There you go.
You can't sit back and wait. And in this scenario, you get your starting right tackle and your starting center in the first 2 rounds, and you do some moving and shaking, and before you know it, you have a wide receiver 2, 2 starters on the offensive line. Bang bang Taylor gang. That's a pretty ideal scenario for Pittsburgh, because right now they don't have a center. It's literally Nate Herbig, and I see Graham Barton's name thrown out there a lot. JPJ, of course. Um, those guys to me are excellent options at pick 20, but then you run out of the excellent offensive tackle tier. That's really just not going to be around in round 2. All right, so I'll just fly through the rest of this, and then we can talk a little bit about um, whatever we want to after this. Round 2, pick 56. This is what they would have acquired from Dallas in that initial trade. Rook or Horhoro, what a fun name. I can't wait to see Yinzers pronounce that. They would have addressed receiver, tackle, and center already, so it gives them some position flexibility here. This is a defensive lineman who is extremely athletic, could absolutely be not just a space eater, but a guy who's going to penetrate and get to the quarterback. Like that a lot. Round 4, you wait to get a corner. They're confident in Dante Jackson and at cornerback 2, even though I'm not as confident. But if you get Cam Hart, this tall, rangy corner who is extremely competitive, contested catches and going up and attacking the ball, it's a home run anyway. And once again, this is a simulator that I use, and he did fall there. Corey Trice coming back from injury as well. Round 4, pick 126 here, JY, Malik Washington, Virginia. Even after trading for a receiver in this scenario, if a guy like Washington falls, you want to get your hands on him. He is 5'8", Calvin Austin size, but he's 30 pounds heavier. So he plays a much different game than a guy like Washington. And then the last 2 picks, a safety that Pittsburgh was interested in, met him at the combine. Didn't have the best workout, ran a 4.62 40, but luxury pick. He played running back at Utah last year. He's extremely athletic. Obviously, averaged 7.5 yards per carry. And why not at that point take a shot on somebody? And you get a steady linebacker in round 6 who I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. I already went to Dam or Horhoro in this draft. 0-star recruit. Look at this. 2 FCS offers out of high school. Walked on at Washington. Yep.
There was a few guys
who
didn't even play football who were having people, it's just crazy. I think we had like last year, I think it was Gabe, wasn't he like a track star, shot put?
Yeah, exactly.
Anything can be coached.
I would not put it past this guy making a roster. Became an impact player after walking on and being a 0-star recruit. So here's your new Steelers look offense. Receiver, you see Jacoby Myers in there. Guyton at right tackle, Frazier at center. Listen, is it a pipe dream? Maybe, but who the hell knows what could happen, right? At this point, it's not going to be this exact formula, but it's a formula I think that they could follow to really maximize the potential of a team in win now mode. I like the idea of drafting a receiver in the second round, sure, but this is a team that wants to win a Super Bowl today, right? Sure, why not take a third round offensive tackle? You can get one there, but is he really going to play any meaningful snaps? No. Yeah. That's why I'm leaning towards getting one in the first round and then trying to find a center in the second round because of where the tiers are. That offensive tackle tier in the first round provides a lot of value, and then your early second round is that Jackson Powers-Johnson, Zach Frazier range, probably, where you can make some moves to try and fill that hole as well. So I'm out of breath.
I hear you. But yeah, I think overall, you nailed it on the head. I think that this is a win now. They talk about Russell Wilson, if he does play well, possibly giving him, a 2-year deal or something like that. But, they make a run at the AFC Championship, Super Bowl, I definitely, even honestly, I know I keep bringing his name up, even with Kenny Pickett at quarterback, I feel that this team showed spurts of what they could do when they're all, working together. But unfortunately, it just didn't work. I think that, having Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, a good draft, beefing up that offensive line, The defense is going to be there. I think that they can be a juggernaut in the AFC right along with the Bills, with the Chiefs. Call me crazy, but as we always say, it's the Steeler Crazy podcast.
They need to find 3 starters. They need a center. They need a right or left tackle, I guess, if they're not going to move Broderick Jones. And they need a wide receiver too. So it's tough for me to fill all 3 of those positions in the draft with your first 3 picks. No matter, if you go center in the first round, like I said, the second tier of linemen are not great. And then you go wide receiver in round 3, maybe. Do you really trust that guy to be a starter right away? And maybe it happened with Deontay Johnson. But you need to address one, I think, outside of the drafts to really fill those roster needs, man. And that's what we got.
Yeah, and thank you guys for hanging out with us. I know we're going to be having some more draft prospects on and some draft experts as we get you ready for the draft. This is the only place to be. The Sick Podcast, Steeler Crazy. Thanks for hanging out with us. We love doing this live thing. Keep interacting with all our content. And as we always say, we're 365 days a year of Steeler content. Just try and do this for all of you. Peace, love,
What's
Steelers.
up, brother?
See you, brother. Shane, take it away.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Steelers Crazy on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.